Let's get ready to rumble!
Hello and welcome to Netflix vs. Cinema, the podcast that's currently thinking happy birthday to me, at least 1/3 of us. My name is Tosin and I am your host, based up in the Midlands in a place called Bromsgrove, and joining me as ever on the Isle of Wight, Sharon.
Hello.
And Shaun.
Hiya.
Yes, as you might have heard that. I don't know. Maybe I'll put it in. Maybe I won't put it into the intro of the little rendition of Happy Birthday that Sharon and Shaun gave to me. So yes, yes, my birthday today, a day that would usually be marked by me going to the cinema, probably me going to the cinema and maybe even dragging my wife along. But as we were just sort of saying, this time last year, and I look back over the last year and I look and I go, would never have thought that would have panned out that way. Really?
No.
Would never have thought that would have panned out that way. Things have changed quite a bit. But anyway, how are you guys doing?
Yeah, all right, thank you. I've yes, life is weird, isn't it? I'm sort of at home all day. Again.
Well, yeah, no. Although I have to admit, it did turn into a bit of a perfect. I've just gotten up from a nap, and you know, one of those naps that you kind of think, "Oh my god, I wish that never ended." But without getting too dark about thinking about the implications of that. But when you just think that was lovely, that was great. But there's bits about staying at home all day that I'm liking, but there are some times when I get a bit so like cabin fever.
Yeah. I start my new job on Monday, having it been postponed. The date of my start date has been moved 4 times in the last 2 weeks. It was supposed to be 2 weeks ago. Then that moved to the last week, and then that moved because the office I'm to be joined, had a positive COVID test.
Oh dear.
So everyone was forced to isolate. And then the earliest I can join them after they've all come out of isolation is Monday. So at the moment, I'm starting on Monday.
Yeah, here's hoping.
So yeah, but who knows what lots can happen in 3 days, as we know in these weird times.
Oh, right. So, and Shaun, now you are. We know what you're like. In the best of times, you're a bit kind of like get up and get out there and can't sit still. And what's it been like?
Yeah, well, I've been quite lucky because I've been going into school or into the schools, and I'm getting tested every week. I did have a test yesterday, and I'm fine. I'm okay. So yeah, it's like because they're doing the Google Classroom now, and they've got like I've been delivering like work materials to I've been out sort of Freshwater and Totland today. So. And it's quite weird. I got like about 3 lots of hand gel, big masks, big everything, and I've been taking like Chromebooks and like art packs and things to some of the students. Not all of them, but ones that are a bit. And I'll tell you, it sort of opens your eyes a little bit. Really, I'll have to say that about So I've been to a few, should we say, difficult to find or strange places. It sort of opens up your eyes a little bit to see where some of the students are and what it must be like for them.
Yeah.
But I have to get tested every week. So I'm actually lucky because I'm still going out and about and class as a key worker, and I'm hoping I'm still classed as a key worker so I get a vaccine. Because I'm pretty paranoid about the whole thing. So I sort of come here and pretty much shut myself up. So I keep the mask on nearly all the time, even when it doesn't matter where I am, I've got a mask on.
Yeah.
I only take it off top to eat. So if I'm walking, people saying, "Oh, you got." And funny enough, I had it until I just phoned you. I had it like this. I would have been like this with it down here, and I thought, so I'm like this, and then I thought, oh, blimey, I've still got my mask on. They think I'm. So yeah, and I had to go and protective equipment from the old Nat West place down on Riverside. They just got a load of delivery of like protective equipment stuff, aprons and what have you, because they're setting up all the different tests, in the schools.
Yeah.
So it's all for me. It's been pretty It's like a mixed blessing, isn't it? I sometimes think, oh no, I'm out and out, and then I think, well, at least I'm out.
Yeah,
at least I'm out. And there's been a lot. There's been the NFL. There's been the NFL playoffs as well. So I've been watching. The NFL football, American football.
Yeah.
It's the wild cards. It's been all the wild cards this week. So yeah, but I have watched a few. What have I been watching? I did watch one film, which I think I emailed you to, but I've been watching a lot of things about Doctor Who and all the different doctors and the missing episodes and all that.
All right. So for anybody who might be listening
I have been keeping busy.
Yeah, for anybody who might be listening to this and might not be conversant with the Isle of Wight geography, the Isle of Wight geography of the UK, Shaun just mentioned Totland and freshwater. And now, the Isle of Wight is an island off the coast of the south coast of England, and that is isolated in itself. But even in a place that some people might look at and think is isolated, Shaun just talked about going to the West Wight, and that is isolated in an area that's already isolated. So when you talk about back end of nowhere, there's some areas of the West Wight that are proper back end of nowhere. Like I remember there was a time I was talking about doing like a version recreating scenes from popular movies but filming them on the island in a series called Could Have Been Filmed Here. And if you're going to do the Blair Witch Project, you would do it in the West Wight. Because you would do it because not a soul around. Who knows what could happen to you. So yes, so that's that. But Shaun, I have to say I do I prefer you with your mask around your neck than what a lot of people seem to be doing, because there seem to be loads of people who have different, let's say they have different ideas about masks than what I think makes sense. So yeah, well done, Shaun. Keep it going, stay safe, and let's hope you do get a vaccine or something, that you don't end up with anybody who's really, really stupid and passes something on. Let's pray for that. So you were talking about films. Now obviously we're on a show called Netflix versus Cinema, and we, as I said, we usually go to the cinema, watch things, and compare it to what we can watch that week at home on Netflix and see which has won this week. And for the last while, we do not have cinemas, so we have just essentially become a TV podcast. We talk about what are the things that we can't watch at home. This week, I'm just going to be talking, because it's probably going to be a quick one this week, as I said. Going to go do birthday things, and but I'm just going to follow up with things that people have seen. Now, Shaun, holding on from last week, we were talking about Black Narcissus. You were the only one who saw it at the appearance time of last week, but this time round, I think all three of us have seen it. We have all seen Black Narcissus, correct? Okay, so we will kick off with Black Narcissus. We have, I think, the history of swear words, which, Shaun, you saw last week.
Yeah, have you finished seeing it?
Oh, yeah, actually, I have finished watching the history of swear words.
Cool.
History of swear words. I have finished watching that. And Sharon, what else have you got for us this week?
Well, I watched two series, both from Sky. One was called Brave New World.
Oh, yeah.
And the other one is A Discovery of Witches.
All right. Okay, cool.
I have season 2. I've seen both of those.
All right. Okay. So I'm just going to let you guys go and pipe in every now and then things I have seen. So shall we kick off with Black Narcissus?
Yes.
Black Narcissus. So, Sharon, give us a brief synopsis of what this is.
This is about Black Narcissus is set in the high mountains of Nepal, where there is a palace that used to be used as a harem, or what the cultural equivalent is, a lady's house.
Yep.
Where they would stay, the concubines and lesser wives. And it has been used for different means over the centuries since. More recently, it has been taken over by a group of nuns who have come up from India to create a school in the mountains for the mountain peoples. And then things start to go slightly awry when the nuns arrive, and the wind and the isolation and the sense that the mountains are looking back at them all begin to play out in different ways on each of the different sisters, and things that they thought were long buried have a way of working their way to the surface. And so through the program, you see those long hidden secrets and those long hidden desires start to reveal themselves.
Oh, very well done. Very concise.
That's perfect.
That could be on the back of a DVD case. So, it's like, so Shaun, what did you think of Black Narcissus?
Okay, well, I suppose we've got to go back to the old film, haven't we? Really, which was like.
Yeah, this was originally it was originally made into a film by Powell and Pressburger, starring Deborah Kerr in the 60s, 67.
Yeah, around about that time, but later I think it was. Not earlier. I mean, not later. Earlier. I'm getting me.
I can't look it up.
Confused. But anyway, Well, my thoughts on it. I thought that actual scene.
47. Sorry, I was up by 20 years. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah. I think for the TV series, for this TV series, the scenery was absolutely beautiful. The scene was absolutely beautiful. I thought the acting was great, but I just thought it was way, way too long. It just, to me, it was, it was really, really drawn out. And so, yeah, I mean, it's not a patch on the film, I don't think. It's not a patch on the film. But, that's all I can say about it, really, because I know you guys want to probably talk about it a bit more. But I just, really, really good acting, really, really lovely scenery, some interesting spots. Some bits not quite convincing. I mean, you've got that new actress that played. What's the name of the
Sister
young?
Clodagh.
Yeah. Sister Clodagh. That's
played by.
She's the mother. She was just Sister Superior.
Yeah.
And then it was Sister Ruth was the young one.
Yeah,
the young one. Well, Sister Ruth. I don't know. It was just. I don't think she didn't convince me. But as I say, on the whole, it was okay, but a bit long, I think. So.
Sharon, what did you think?
No, I liked it. I can see that you can do a compare and contrast with the Powell and Pressburger film, because again, the use of colour in Powell and Pressburger and all their films, colour was how there was their canvas which they painted on, wasn't it? They used lots of colour, and a lot in the film, the colours were heightened and the shadows were that bit blacker and the colours were that bit richer, and so you had this fight between sort of what was real and what was not real, with the colours being heightened and then some of them just those contrasts. Whereas this, I think it was almost like the colour was like bleached out of the scenes, where the sort of bit that's been stripped away from them, where they wear these white habits. So I could appreciate the contrast between these sort of styles. I like this version. I like the fact that it did sort of take its time a bit more. The fact that these women are there for months, you get that sense of passing of time, and that how you can feel that being blown on these mountains with this constant wind blowing, that it would like take all the colour out of everything. And then they are left with, they're reduced because they're suffering in these sort of higher climates, thinner air, away from their comforts. And there's one colour who learns for beauty, and who can see the beauty of the mountains, but she wants to plant flowers, and how she can see that finds her weakness. And in all of them, it's like the wind blows through these doors that keep getting flung open, and it sort of blows through themselves, and it flings wide all these doors that they want to keep shut. So I liked the imagery of it, and so to me, I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the fact that they didn't sort of do these flashbacks, and of all of them, only the one Sister Clodagh, you see the flashbacks of what's led her to this place.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that you see glimpses of that. It isn't all just poured out in one big hit. No, so I quite like the fact that it was this slower, cooler. To me, it was like that take on it. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've heard of the other film, like, obviously once you start getting into film stuff and everything like that, you hear the name Powell and Pressburger, you hear those names, and they will come up sooner rather than later, and people talk about, oh my god, this and that. And so I've heard about Black Narcissus, I've heard about it, and when this came up, I'm happy to see that the original is actually on BBC iPlayer at the moment. So I had it on my list. I had my list to go watch the original and so do a compare and contrast like you guys have done. Didn't get around to watching the original, but I have to admit, when it comes to this, I am more in line with Shaun, than that I would. I did. I mean, at the end of it, because sometimes I often think, by the time you finish watching something, what are you left with? And when this ended, when we had the final scene ending, I was just kind of like, so hang on, what was the point of that? And I wasn't sure what the point of the story was. I wasn't sure why were you telling me this story? It's like, are you saying that is it saying, or like, religion bad or Christianity bad? Is it saying Indian mysticism trumps, like, Western religion or anything like that? Is it saying that there's a reading of this TV series which is just kind of like, well, women be crazy. That is and I'm like, what is this thing saying? I don't know what it's saying. There's bits, I do think it's too long. I think it's too long. There's bits where I'm not sure whether the idea was to try and make you feel the boredom of the people who were in the Himalayas with nothing going on. I'm not sure if that was the point of it, but there were bits where I found myself just losing interest and getting on my phone or trying to do something else, and it wasn't really grabbing me. Probably about halfway through the second episode, there's 3 episodes, and about halfway through the second episode, and okay, so that it gives you 3 hours, and it made me think, because the film of Black Narcissus, it's about an hour and a half long. And when I watched this 3 hours of the TV series, I was thinking, yeah, I think an hour and a half is run about right. I think an hour and a half is run about what you would get for that story. So I can't tell about that, but I'm still trying to scratch my head and saying, well, I agree with you. I think the performances are great. I think Gemma Atherton, Sister Clodagh, is great. I think I believe it's Aileen Franciosi. Aileen Franciosi, who plays Sister Ruth. Shaun, you might recognize her from The Nightingale. She was the lady in The Nightingale.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I thought I'd sort of seen her. Yeah.
I think she might need to stop playing racists. But
yeah.
There were bits earlier on,
yeah,
especially in the first 2 episodes. I was like, you need to stop playing racists. But they're really good, and I think especially as Alessandro Nivola, who plays Mr. Dean, and he's American, but I'm like, I was
perfect accent,
so impressed with him, so impressed. I was just because it actually started off and I was like, that's Alessandro Nivola. I remember seeing him in a film years ago called Best Laid Plans with Reese Witherspoon, and I was like, I was pretty sure he's American. And I had to go on and go, he is. That is a very good accent that he's putting on there.
He is married to Emily Mortimer, though, and so I think he does spend a lot of time in this country.
Oh, okay, that would explain it. that would explain it. So I think all in all, I agree. I think that the filming is great. I think the location is great. I think some of the location work, the palace that the filming in is brilliant. But I'm not entirely sure what exactly the story is supposed to be saying. I personally would give it 3 out of 5.
Yeah, I would concur. I would concur with that. Tosin, I'd agree with you. 3.
Okay, and Sharon?
I'd give it a 4. I enjoyed it. I liked it, and I liked the feel of it. So I would give it a 4.
Out of curiosity, what would you give the original film, the 1947 film?
I would. To me, it was quite a different feel. But I'd still give the original a 4. I think it's completely different to the original, but for different reasons. I mean, it's almost got like high melodrama, the first one.
Yeah.
The film so I like that, but it puts me off where they have like these super extreme close-ups of the faces, sort of, you're reading the faces, so I'm not keen on that. But I did rate it as a piece of drama. It's just like, it's cracking. So I'd give that a 4 as well, but for different reasons.
All right. Okay. This is going to be interesting. I'm guessing that this one is trying to be a bit more realistic.
Yeah, I think so. And it's sort of looking at altitude sickness rather than hysteria, in the old meaning of the word hysteria. So I would say that it would sort of take a different take on
in the old meaning that we're not allowed to use anymore. In the old women be crazy meaning of the word.
Yeah, in that it's all your hormones, and it's like you know. The fact that you're sort of sexually repressed is going to drive you mad, I think, in that sort of hysterical way.
Yeah.
I think they wouldn't better use that now, but in the 40s, that was like, you absolutely, you can't, no men.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I'm not so sure that they escaped that in this version, but
there's elements of it. I think there's elements of it.
Yeah. So Sean, from what you remember of the original, how would you rate that?
From what I remember the original, I think there's bits of it. It's one of those films that there's some striking bits that I can remember, but it wasn't probably really not my sort of movie. I mean, for the sumptuous color, like it is like, the cinematography is really, really good and really, really striking, and there are scenes of total hysteria. But yeah, I mean, I would give this a high 3. I couldn't give this a monster 4. I think, because it just wasn't. I could see the intrinsic qualities of it, but for me, it's still only
doesn't quite cut
a 3-star, I'm afraid.
All right, cool. Let's move on. That's one of the things I'm going to see if I can get around to in the next week. Watch Powell and Pressburger's Black Narcissus and see which one I prefer. Right. Yeah. So now let's move on to Brave New World. Now this is an adaptation of the Aldous Huxley book that is on. Well, in this country is on Sky One or Sky Atlantic or anything. So, Sharon, this was you again. Take us away with this.
Yeah, I haven't read the book, so I can't do a comparison with the book. I haven't read it. But the drama is set in the future. It doesn't specify a date in the future, but it's called New London, and people in New London live in this controlled environment, a controlled world, and when they go on holiday to a place called the Savage Lands, which is outside of their control but still within their control. And in New London, it's all ran by this form of sort of AI that basically administers drugs or these sort of mood suppressants. So the idea is that everyone should be happy, and they have established by this old treatise going back centuries that in order for people to be happy, they need to have their 3 desires met. They need to have occupation, they need to have pleasure, and they need to have sort of sexual relationships without guilt.
Oh yeah.
And so monogamy is banned because it's that creates jealousy and it can create envy.
Yeah.
So there's no monogamous relationships. Property is banned because again it's if you have everything you need, then you'll be happy. And so it's about creating a harmonious, happy relationship. And so from before you're conceived, you are assigned a number. You're an alpha, a beta, you are a gamma, or an epsilon. And have I missed one? A delta, gamma, and epsilon. And so the alpha is basically the world is your oyster. You can have anything you want. And the betas are there for your pleasure, for the alpha's pleasure. So they tend to be, the women are there to be, available for any alpha who finds them attractive. And because monogamy is against the law, then you don't have a yes or no. You just comply. And you think
Ooh, that's topical.
Yeah. And so it's like, and that's the same with men or women. If the alpha men or women, there's no differential between the sexes. There's no such thing as, heterosexuality or homosexuality. It's everyone is equally attractive.
Everyone's
and equally
available to everyone.
Yeah. And so betas are for pleasure, and then deltas are for sort of service. They're like middle management almost. Gammas are like servants, so like personal servants, and epsilons are like the cleanup crew. They do the menial work.
Yeah.
And so you are ascribed your position from before birth, from conception, and so you know exactly where the world ends. And the story starts with a suicide, and a suicide should be impossible. It should not be possible. And so the 2 main characters, the one of them is an alpha plus who is sent to investigate what happened, and he tries to find out how the inconceivable can happen. And this is a tiny chip in the sort of smooth this like an ice, like if you think of an ice field, it's a smooth crack in the ice, and so what begins as something quite minor has repercussions, and these cracks and these ripples start to spread, and then you introduce these other characters, a beta plus, the main female character, and then a guy from the Savage Lands, who it turns out that his parents were from New London, and his mother was a beta plus, and when her alpha left her behind, she had no way of getting back to New London because she hasn't got a passport, she hasn't got the powers to travel, only an alpha can travel. And so you see this from this one incident, this sort of death, to this introducing these characters come together, and then you just see these ripples throughout. And so through these, I think it's 8 or 10 episodes, I can't remember which, you begin to see these cracks spread, and how one event has consequences that leads on to another event, and you get this cascade.
All right. So from what you're saying, I can already see, because obviously this is Aldous Huxley who wrote this, and he wrote this ages ago, and it's the two things I often hear mentioned, like, you know, in close proximity to each other, are 1984 and Brave New World. That's almost kind of like, you know, two different takes on the same concept and all that. But even from what you've said, I can already see the influence on some. Without watching Brave New World or reading, I'm going to say some lesser works, such as the Divergent series, has a very sort of like similar. Oh, let's break them up into different things. Let's break society up into this kind of thing. And I can see that sort of. So there is so much from this that sounds like, you know, has become standard sci-fi tropes as the further on you go. So with this, once you're explaining that, I'm already beginning to think of how this story is going to go. I'm already there's some hits I'm expecting that are going to happen. Is that what, does it go in your typical way, or does it have anything, essentially, if I watch this, would I think, oh, I've seen that before because it's been copied so many times, or does it actually manage to do anything different or new?
You can certainly see how it's been an influencer. There's certain scenes when they go to this, they have our main character, which is an Alpha Plus and a Beta Plus, they go on holiday to the Savage Lands, and you can certainly see how they have derived certain things from that in other series. So and certainly the way, and certainly the way the society works. In that, to me, it reminded me of like Logan's Run.
Oh yeah.
In some of how you never see anyone old there.
Yeah.
And some of it is due to euthanizing people, but you don't ever see it. People, because they have no close relationships, they have no concept of grief.
Yeah.
So if someone ceases to exist, they just cease to exist, and the next day as if they never happened at all. So they have no concept of personal relationships or grief. So there's no consequences to any action. It's all about being happy and pleasure. So I can certainly see how sort of things like Logan's Run would have been influenced. It reminded me of that, how you never see an old person there. There's elements there that I think are certainly derivative.
Or
people have derived from that.
It's actually so much so that there's certain ideas of how I feel like this story could develop that I don't want to say out loud in case they're just total spoilers, because I'm thinking this is where this is going to go. because like the Alden Ehrenreich character, when he comes in from the what do you call them, the Badlands,
the Savage Lands,
when he comes in, I'm like, okay, this is essentially, let me put it this way,
recipe for disaster.
Let me put it this way, I'm thinking this is going to be Footloose. This is going to be the guy who comes in and introduces dance to an area where dance is seen as sinful. So I actually never thought about that. Maybe Footloose is actually just an adaptation of Brave New World.
See, I've never read the book, so obviously they've brought it up to date by this whole AI. So I don't know how they worked that in the original novel, because it obviously predates our understanding of technology. But yeah, there's certainly elements there. So it was it was interesting. I've had it on the iPlayer for a while, and it's just took me for waiting for my brother to have a week of nights for me to be able to sort of watch it. So I watched it over a couple of days. It was entertaining. I don't think it was anything new under the sun, because it deals with, sort of liberation, if I can use that term.
Yeah.
There's a lot of nudity and a lot of sexuality in it, but I've done in such a way that it's very without emotion. So it's a bit like, It's like, oh.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's supposed to be titillating, but I certainly didn't think it was anything like that. Just because of the way it was portrayed and there was like orgy scenes, and you go, oh, yes, it's not. So it was, to me, it was just, that was a tiny bit gratuitous in places. But it's an interesting thing. So I would give it a 3.
A 3.
So it's interesting to check it out. I mean, if you like your dystopian fiction, if you like your science fiction, then yeah, certainly check it out. But don't expect great things from it. But it's entertaining for all that. Worth an evening spent on it. So I would give it a 3.
All right. And I think we have time for one more. This week. And so I'm going to throw it back to Shaun. And Shaun, you saw History of Swear Words on Netflix.
I did see it.
And already I can see that there's a smile showing up on your face. So this is a series of 5? I think it's 5 episodes, and each one of them focuses on a different modern swear word, all the way from the F word through to 2 words that use as swear words but also mean male and female genitalia, through to a word that originally meant female dog, and a word that is actually so watered down nowadays that I feel I can say damn. So so and it goes through the history of them. So Shaun, what did you think about this?
Okay, well, this series, I watched it. I mean, it was just one of those ones on Netflix that I just happened to catch, and I watched the first one, which is the F word, where Nicolas Cage, and so he's like
he's the host.
He's the host, and he starts off with a tirade of 30 maybe F words, just like, and all said in different ways. And then all through, you've got all these different comedians that are talking about, oh yeah, I use this and this, and you can say it in this way. It's funny. There's so many derivatives of it. And then you've got the entomologists that are saying, yeah, this is actually from medieval Dutch.
Yeah.
And then it said that was like we have Mac and Fitz. Well, that word was a Dutch word, and originally in the 14th century, and some of the people were actually called, their names were
their names were
that word, that F word was incorporated into their names. And then you got the comedians saying, oh, that would be funny because you'd have Johnny and this and that, and I have to say that I was absolutely I was in fits of laughter with this. It was just really, really tickled me. And it was nice and short, and I thought, oh, that's good. So I decided to watch them all. That first one's definitely the best. I mean, for me, out of them all, that's worth a watch on its own. I should watch that again, I'm sure, actually. I might even watch that tonight, because it sat in a room watching it, absolutely laughing out loud. That's got to say something, because I'm hard to please when it comes to my comedy.
Yeah.
But I just really love the idea of it. And what's really, really interesting, which it was saying that the thing came up and it said on screen, how many who has ever said
cinematically in the filmic career who has said the F word the most times, and
he goes, and it's not me. Which I mean, so and it is surprising. I'm not going to say who it is, but it is surprising. It's like, no way, really, him.
The actor who has said the F word the most times on film, it is one of those things you're like, really? What?
Really? Yeah, you can't believe it, can you? Really? You can't believe it. And then the other words, like you say, the S word. So all the episodes pretty much are the same people, the same comedians, the same entomologists, and they just go through it from when it started off and when it was originally used in mainstream, and then became to mean what what it was. And obviously the different ways of pronouncing it can mean different things, because I mean, which is great, really. So on the whole, I really, really enjoyed it. There were a couple that didn't quite give me as much laughter as the first one. Yeah. But well, maybe, that one. But I enjoyed it, and I'm going to give this purely for me because it's right up my street. It made me laugh. I found it really, really amusing. I mean, and the first one I could watch again and again and again because it's just hysterical. So I would have to say with this, I don't know. You've seen it as well, so do you want to say your bit before we give it stars?
Yeah, okay. I think I agree with a lot of what you said. I think it's billed as a Netflix comedy series, and so they put their cards out saying that we're trying to be funny here. but it's essentially one of those sort of like edutainment things where it's on the headline is we're trying to be funny, but they're sneaking a lot of education and a lot of knowledge in there, and a lot of almost philosophy as to what are swear words. Why do we even have swear words? When does a word become a swear word? Because when they go back to the origin of a lot of these words, what they're telling you is, look, this word used to be fine. It used to be fine. You could say it. It was no big deal. And then all of a sudden, at this point, it changed and it became a swear word. What made this word become a swear word? And then some of the ones is like, this word used to be really, really bad. It used to be the worst thing you could possibly say. And now, you wouldn't be surprised to hear a 10-year-old say it. And it's like, and what happens with that? Do all swear words go on a journey where they start off like, as horrible and at some point become okay? And those bits, I have to admit, I found the etymology bits fascinating. I found that absolutely fascinating. The comedian bits, there's sometimes where you feel like they've turned on the camera and you know that they have to come up with something that's funny. They have to come up with something that's funny on this data. And I think those bits, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. The etymology bits where they're talking about, okay, this is I was just kind of, oh, seriously, that is really, really interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting as well as comedic. But no, I agree with you. Sometimes the comedians, they're a little bit, a little bit over the top, aren't they? A little bit self-indulgent, maybe.
A bit, yeah. There's a little bit self-indulgent with some of the comedic bits, but I think from the mix of those two things, where they're trying to teach you something, get you something that actually has some sort of cultural significance, and at the same time, be entertaining, I think they've done really, really well. And I think I said last week that Nicolas Cage, you can see that he's having more fun than he's had in absolute ages.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole bit with, let's say there's one of the swords they talk about that rhymes with Nicolas Cage's first word, Nick. And he's kind of going, so at some point, this is the only swear word that started off as somebody's name, and then it ended up being a swear word. He's like, oh, why couldn't it have been Nick? Imagine it would have been so good. It would have been so good if people could just have ended up saying Nick. People could have been Nickheads. and you can see the way he does it. He's just sort of like having fun with it. He's having absolute fun.
That's interesting because that word, I can guess what you mean. Yeah. We actually had someone in our office that was their nickname, and it got to the point where everyone was making a joke about it, to us women mainly, and we were getting to the point where it's saying that we got tired of having to just sort of rebuke some of the sort of smutty jokes. So we actually renamed him Richard, and we said, you know what, for our sakes, we're just going to call you Richard from now on. We don't, because we don't want to have people coming in and saying, oh, is so-and-so in, or is so-and-so here? And it's like,
have you seen so-and-so lately?
Yes. So we said, look, it's not funny for us. We're just finding it's just rude because it's like an office of 4 women and 1 man, and it was like, you know what, it's just not funny anymore. So we said, we're just going to call you Richard, and then if anyone refers to as anything else, we're just going to say, oh, do you mean Richard? Okay. So we had to rename him because it got to the point where it's like, you know what, you may find every man who came in the office would just like snigger, and it'd be like, it's just stop.
It's just not funny. It's just not funny. Yes. So I think and they talk about things like they talk about how you never see that if you ever meet somebody who is called the shortened form of Nick, okay, I'm gonna say, when I say this, I'm referring to the name. If you ever meet anybody who's called Dick, like if you ever meet anybody who's called that, they're like, they're going to be a certain age. After a certain age, nobody refers to themselves.
It's like Robin, isn't it? It's like Robin, isn't it? Robin, what's his name? Robin, Batman and Robin.
Oh yeah. Dick Grayson. Yeah, his name is Dick. Yeah, but you know that's from a certain time, because after a certain time, there's nobody who is called Richard who refers to themselves as anything other than Richard or Rich. It's
they're going to be in their 50s or 60s, or I would probably say more likely their 60s now.
Yeah, and they taught, and it's things like that I find fascinating. Like, when does it change? What does it do? And there are some of these words that I personally find offensive, but it made me start asking, okay, what exactly about this word is offensive? And is there going to be a time at which, a word that is just really, really bad just switches? It switches and becomes something else. And there is a particular word. Okay, so let's say and I was looking at this and I was going, okay, I know they are not going to go there. They're not going to go there, and they kind of dance around it. They dance around it, and I think it's the N word. The way the N word is used, they dance around it, and they say a lot of things in one of the other episodes. I think it has to do with a B word that a lot of women get called. So they say a lot of stuff about that word and about how it's being reclaimed and about how a lot of women now use that word. And I remember thinking myself, I was like, hang on a second, when did this word become acceptable? When did this word become acceptable to call someone as a term of endearment? That's a horrible word. And there's a lot of stuff that they say about reclaiming it that relate. And I feel like that the guys who are making this show probably thought, this is the closest we can get to talking about the N-word, but we are probably not going to go there because I'll be interested to see if they do a season 2. I'm interested to see if they do another season, and interested to see what words they go to, because the only way to go is to the stuff that is really offensive. A bit like, I was wondering whether they were going to touch the C word, but they don't.
Yeah, I know. I was just thinking that. I don't think they will. I don't think they go there.
They didn't go there. They didn't, and I'm not sure if that's a cultural thing. If that is more offensive in maybe in the UK than it is in America. I don't know. I think
in America that's like I think that the C word in America is the worst. Is absolutely, especially if you say it to a woman. It is like, I mean, when I was there, I travelled America a lot, and that is, if you really, really want to go step over the mark, that's the word you use.
Yeah, but I have to be honest with you. But I think that there is a really interesting discussion to be had around that. And so for me, the discussion around what makes a swear word, what determines that this is bad, I find that fascinating. I really, really enjoyed that. But when it comes to stars, I think I would have to give this a 4 out of 5.
Yeah, and I'll agree with you on that. I'll agree with you on that. I'll give it a 4 out of 5.
Yeah, I think
what I think I liked about it was they were fairly short episodes, weren't they? They were like
they're very short, yeah.
Which is pretty good, really. So you can watch them fairly quickly. They didn't like draw the point or go on too long. But the first one was definitely the funniest, I thought, for me.
Yeah. Cool. And I think with that, if you can handle hearing swear words over and over and over again until they almost lose their meaning.
Yeah, you become numb to it, don't you? Really?
Yeah, if you can handle that, there's a lot of value in this TV show. If you think no, can't handle it. If the idea of a TV show in which Nicolas Cage starts off by giving you loads of film quotes and really famous film quotes that have the F word in it, if that makes you go, oh my god, no, then you might want to give this one a miss. But there is a lot of value to be had in that. So I think that is the end of our quick fire episode of Netflix or Cinema this week. Until next week, when we will be talking about, I think, Sharon, you saw The Discovery of Witches Season 2.
Yep.
Yeah, and Shaun, you saw a film which I am really interested to find out about. I might even go and track down and find Miss Juneteenth.
Yes, it was on Sky, and it'd be good. I think it'd be interesting for Sharon to watch it as well. So,
because once you hear Juneteenth, that is something that I mean, in the last couple of years has become more of a well-known thing outside of the Black community in America, which is
well, that's it. It was basically what it was I was looking at the films and the times, and it started. The old Sky thing, and I thought, oh, what's that? And I started watching it, and I thought, well, I'm not sure about this, but I ended up watching the whole thing. So,
all right, cool. And so on to next week, when we will talk about Miss Juneteenth, it's a goodbye from me.
It's a goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from me.
Thank you very much for joining us this week.
Happy birthday, Toz.
Oh, Happy
birthday.
Oh, wow, I've forgotten about that. Yeah, thank you.
Have some fun.
All right, cool.